Hello and welcome back to the allotment plot. It is the 8th of August and it's a glorious day. The sun is shining and it's not too hot, which is lovely. The plot is just looking so lush. Everything is just so full and productive, and the whole plot in general might be a bit messy. It is looking quite scrappy, but the plants, which are arguably the most important part of an allotment, are doing so well, and I'm really, really pleased with how everything is looking. It's just so pretty. I love it. It has been far too long since I had almost a whole day at the plot, but today is definitely a day for allotment time, and I need it, I want it, and I'm excited. It's coming up to about 9:30, 10 o'clock, I think, in the morning. So I've got a long day ahead of me to get this plot a little bit more organised, maybe a bit tidier. I've got some things to do and some plants to plant out. So I'm just going to have a really nice day and just enjoy my time here with my plants and see what I can get up to. The first job I have to do is once again addressing the tomato bed, because I have 5 tomato plants in here, and when I made it initially, the whole bed wasn't available because I had a bunch of strawberries. So there's 5 tomatoes in essentially half a bed here, and they are crammed, but they are doing incredibly well. I have never seen so many tomatoes, um, and they're starting to ripen. So these ones over here, the yellow ones, are actually almost ripe. I've got a few varieties, well, I've got 5 different varieties. 2 of them are yellow, 1 of them is orange, and 2 of them should be red. So they are going amazingly well. They are putting out uh, so many fruits, and the nasturtiums also in flower just look so lovely. This whole bed is gorgeous. I'm not a huge fan really of red and yellow and orange. However, because the tomatoes are red, yellow and orange, it just makes sense to have the same colours mirrored in the flowers, and I think it just looks really pretty and lush. There are basils in there as well, um, which, yeah, you can just about see poking through. But yeah, so I need to address this again. I need to add more supports and essentially allow some of these side shoots that are coming out to have their own supports to grow upwards, rather than just having them all along this A-frame here. So that's the first thing that I'm going to do.
Whenever I see advice about growing tomatoes, people always tend to mention cutting off the suckers and not having lots of side shoots, because you want the energy to all be going into the fruits and making sure that they're not wasting energy on growing unnecessary vines. But these grew so quickly, and cutting off the suckers just did not work for me. I couldn't keep up with it, and so I've just let them grow, and they're all producing their own fruits. So rather than cutting them back and losing those fruits, I'm going to support them, and with enough feed and watering, I'm pretty sure I can sustain these plants and get a really bountiful tomato harvest this year. So I'm just replicating what I've done on the other side, basically making an A-frame with some canes and just putting them where the vines naturally are growing. And hopefully that'll be enough. I'm not really doing anything in a particular way. I have no idea what I'm doing, to be perfectly honest. I'm just trying to get some kind of structure in so that they don't flop over, because this tomato bed is really productive. There's only 5 plants in here, but there are just so many tomatoes, and I'm really surprised because I've never really had much luck with tomatoes, and I thought I would need to put them in the greenhouse in order to be successful. But actually, I think putting them in the greenhouse would have been detrimental because it was just too hot in there. And probably the success has been down to the fact that it has been so sunny and there hasn't been a huge amount of rain. The tomatoes I've grown in the past have all been split because it rained far too much and the tomatoes have just burst because they've been too full of water. So something about this year has just made the tomato crop absolutely amazing, and I'm very happy about that. I'm unsure as to what to do next year with the tomatoes because they aren't necessarily going to be in one of these beds. The tomatoes are going to be swapped out with potatoes in the crop rotation. So I don't know whether to make a specific tomato bed or actually keep the tomatoes within the crop rotation and put potatoes somewhere else, because each year is going to be completely different and the conditions that we've had this year might not happen next year, and so growing tomatoes outside might actually be a complete bust. But obviously, without knowing ahead of time how the weather's going to be, it's going to be really difficult to plan, and I'm not entirely sure what I want to do yet, but this whole bed has really surprised me and I've been really loving it every time I come onto the plot, seeing new tomatoes ripening, new little nasturtiums coming out. I know I certainly won't have 5 tomato plants in such close proximity, but overall it does look very cute and it has been incredibly productive. Like the cosmos, the nasturtiums seem to cross-pollinate really easily and produce some amazing flowers, and these are my favourites from the normal nasturtiums. They have this sort of double flower situation with a tiny little bit of hot pink red splatters in the middle, and I just think they're really pretty. The yellow is so delicate and gorgeous. They are certainly my favourite. I know I keep showing it, but this whole bed is just stunning. Every time I come into the plot and see it, I fall in love with it, and I just can't wait for next year and having this on a much grander scale.
The courgettes have gone absolutely wild. When I say courgettes, it's the Romanesco that's gone wild. Look at the size of this thing. It starts like over there and it comes all the way across the bed. And the poor green long is really trying. It's got quite a few little courgettes on, so I've just given it a bit of a feed, and hopefully that means those courgettes will come to maturity. But we've mostly been having Romanescos from this plant because it's just taken over the whole bed. But yeah, I'm going to just trim back some of these leaves so that when it rains, the rain can actually get to the roots, because at the moment I'm not entirely sure it is getting much water when it rains. So I'm just going to trim a few things and just open up the canopy just a little bit more, just to help me out a little bit so I don't have to keep watering them so much. I haven't taken away many, but I have been strategic and taken the one that was covering the base of the green long, so when it rains it is going to go where the roots are, which is going to be very beneficial for this plant. And I'm not entirely sure where it's going to go, if it keeps growing, because it is very much shot over the edge of this bed, but I'll just let it do its thing. And I will be a bit more mindful of how courgettes grow next year, because I've only ever grown them in a pot, I didn't realise they spread along the ground like this. So obviously if you give the plant the room to spread, it's gonna do it. So yeah, that's really, really cool. It's almost gone across the entire thing. Also, courgette leaves are completely hollow. They're just really long tubes, and I feel like I knew this information but I've forgotten it. But I think some people make little flutes out of them. You can make little instruments, but I don't know how you would do that without getting spiked, because these are super spiky. So I'm not going to try doing that, but I'm pretty sure I've seen that somewhere. The next job I have to do, which I really don't want to do, is fill up this bed. It's such a tiring job. I don't enjoy it. It's just carting wheelbarrows full of soil and dumping them in here. And because I want to sow some root vegetables, I'm sifting the soil as well, so it's nice and fine for the roots to actually grow. So it's just taking a long time, but I really do need to get it done because I have seeds to sow. I want to sow some carrots and some beetroots. The beans that I put in here, I threw in here the other day when it was hammering it down with rain, are not looking great. A couple I don't think have survived because I think they got a bit broken in the wind. So I'm just gonna leave them, let them establish, and hopefully they'll do something. But yeah, I'm not 100% sure that they're going to be as successful as the other beans. So yeah, I just need to fill this with soil, but it's not very exciting, but it's got to be done. Not everything can be super fun, rewarding jobs.
The bonus of needing to fill up the raised bed is that the old compost bins will naturally get depleted and I can clear this area, which is really nice. It's really good to start seeing a bit of progress in this space because it is the first thing that you see when you come up to the plot, and it's very messy and very not how I would like my plot to be. So I feel like if I can get the front of it looking a little bit nicer, a little bit more inviting, a bit more structured, then hopefully that can set up the tone for the rest of the plot going forward. And so yeah, getting this space starting to clear is really helping me to visualize what I want to do with it. I'm still not sure. I just know that I want to do something, and I think I just need the whole space to be completely clear before I can really make any plans. It's really hard to figure out how I want to make it look pretty when there's a massive broken down pallet compost bin staring at me in the face. It wasn't on my to-do list to do anything with the compost area, but because I had taken so much soil, it just seemed sensible to take down the pallets and actively clear some of this area. So I took out the poles and took down these pallets, which are so rotten. There's really not much I can do with them, I don't think. I might be able to take some of the planks and they might be useful for a path idea in the meadow area, but they're definitely not going to be any good for anything structural, which is a shame because they're already on the plot and I could really do with having some useful wood available on the plot rather than having to bring it myself in the car, because I can't fit pallets in the car. I have to make sure that they're cut down to size before I can bring them to the plot, which limits what I can do with them and massively increases my labour time. One exciting thing about clearing this space is I can get to the back of the greenhouse, which means I will be able to clean more of the windows, which is going to be so good. I'm waiting for it to cool down because being inside the greenhouse is just too much. It's still so intense. I can barely be in there for more than 30 seconds without feeling like I'm going to pass out. So once it gets cool enough, I will be cleaning those windows and it's just going to look so much nicer. This space looking clearer and the windows being cleaner is going to make a huge difference.
So in this end of the bed, I'm going to sow some root vegetables. I've got the carrot rainbow mix and 2 beetroots, the Chioggia maybe, and the Detroit. And I sowed a small number of these earlier in the year and had them in pots in the garden, and they were so good. Um, so I want to see if I can get them growing in this bed and hopefully get some late harvests in early autumn, which would be really, really cool. So I'm just going to sow a couple of rows of each of these, and I recently found out about sowing seeds using the cycle of the moon. When it's the full moon, it's the best time to sow seeds. It's something to do with the gravitational pull, and it'll help the seeds to make contact with the earth and germinate better. And I just think it's a really cool concept, and it's been done for millennia. So it's by no means new, but it is new to me, and it was quite an interesting idea. And it makes sense to plan a garden based on the phases of the moon, and I think I would like to give that a go. So I'm going to sow these now. The full moon is technically tomorrow, sort of like tonight, over tonight and tomorrow morning. So it seems like a perfect time to give it a go and sow some seeds.
I'm not really sure what the best practice is for sowing these carrots. I've never done carrots before, but I feel like Monty Don has done this on Gardener's World. So I am channeling my inner Monty and sowing thinly in straight lines and then covering gently with some soil. And I hope that something will come up. The trick with the carrots is that we don't want to disturb the roots because the smell will attract carrot root fly, which would be bad. I don't know how it did it, but there is a cabbage white in with my broccolis, which is terrible news. I have no idea how it got in. Now I have to get it out and also check every single leaf for a single egg, because if I leave them, they are going to be destroyed. How the heck did it get in? back to the seeds and I'm sowing the beetroots. I sowed the Chioggia and then the Detroit, and these I'm pretty confident will come up because I sowed them in a tub and I didn't look after them very well and they still turned out pretty good. So I'm hoping sowing more of them in a raised bed where I will actually be watering them and looking after them will prove more successful. The cabbage whites were so desperate to get into the broccolis. They were everywhere. These are the sole reason I have the nasturtiums on the plot, but they still seem to be wanting the broccoli. I still can't decide what I want to do for this area, but I did pick up this plastic raised bed from the side of a road a couple of weeks ago, and it will be nice just to add, I think, to this corner, just so I can redefine the actual corner of my plot. And I have a few plants to plant out, and so it could be quite nice just to have a little spot here that's not super ugly and bare soil, and just give them somewhere to go. So I think I'm going to put that up. It's a square, so it's literally just going to be a little square here in the corner, and that will just help to re-establish the border of my allotment plot. This raised bed was so much easier to put together than what I've been doing, and I don't know if I needed to make things so hard for myself when I could just get flat pack. But then I wouldn't have the satisfaction of building them myself, so I don't think I wasted my time. But it was nice just to be able to put together a raised bed in a matter of seconds rather than whole days. It was a nice little bonus that it is black and has a fake wood effect on it, so it really does fit with the aesthetic of my plot. And it actually matches the raised beds that I've made really well, so that was a happy coincidence. As with all the raised beds, I'm filling it up with a layer of cardboard to help suppress the weeds. I'm then soaking that cardboard to add in a little bit of moisture and weigh the cardboard down as well. And then I'm just going to throw a bunch of soil on top. Even though this is quite a small bed, it took a surprisingly large amount of soil to fill it up enough to actually plant some things in here. I definitely could have done with adding a layer of twiggy bits and maybe some leaves before putting in the soil just to raise the level up a little higher, but I just did what I could do with what I had available. What I have to put in here are a couple of rosemary plants which have been sat at home for weeks, if not months, and they really just need to go somewhere so that they can start growing up. And I've got an alchemilla, a zinnia, and a whole lot of verbena. I have no plan with this. I just popped some things in some places, thought that'll do, and just got them in the ground because the plants are suffering by not being in the ground and being in pots. So really they just need to go in somewhere and to be looked after so they can actually grow. And I have so many verbena, which is amazing. I love Verbena bonariensis so much, and I want my plot to be full of them next year. So the more plants I can get on the plot this year to go to seed, the better chance I'll have of them self-seeding across the plot and coming up next year. I had so many that I couldn't fit them all into the bed, so I thought I'd start planting outside of the bed as well and kind of blur the edges between the contained area and the outside, so I don't have to just plant within the raised bed. I can plant around the edges as well, and I think that looks pretty cool. I think it could be a good concept to take across the plot with me next year and just soften the edges and make things look a little bit less formal.
It is somehow 1 o'clock, so I've been here for about 3.5 hours, and I've got loads done actually. I'm really pleased with how well it's gone. It doesn't feel like it's been 3.5 hours, but I am parched. So I'm gonna go home and get myself a coffee, have some lunch, and then I can decide what I need to do this afternoon. There are a couple more things on my to-do list, so hopefully I can get something done off of that. And I'm really intrigued with how this area is going. I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. It's all very intuitive. I'm just working with things that I have and not really thinking about it too much. So, yeah, hopefully these plants will grow up. If nothing else, they will produce seed, which will be sown around the rest of the plot and hopefully come up next year. But yeah, I am really pleased. A lot more has got done today than I was expecting, so that's a really, really good sign.
The butterfly got back in, and I could not work out how it got in. And then I watched it just fly through one of the holes in the net. It doesn't look like it should be big enough for a butterfly to get through, but somehow it squeezed in. Back home, there were some plugs of lavenders that arrived in the mail, and they are so cute and tiny. So I needed to pot those up, and they are gonna go around my greenhouse and around the edges of my allotment. Mum saw an ad for these on her Gardener's World subscription email, so always worth signing up for these things for good little deals like this. These 24 plants were, I think, about £5. I had fully intended to come back to the plot for the afternoon, but the weather was so lovely, I went paddleboarding instead, which is one of my other passions and something I have not had enough time to do this summer because I have been at the allotment whenever the weather has been nice and in the evenings to do my watering and things. So I chose my other hobby over the allotment today, and that's okay. I think having an allotment is definitely a lifestyle rather than a generic hobby because it really does take over every single aspect of your life, at least in the summer when there's so much to do and you've got to do everything in the short 3 months where the weather is sunny and warm and things are growing and things are getting ready to harvest every day. So there's just heaps to do, and having a social life and doing any of my other hobbies is really tricky to fit in, but it's definitely a learning curve, and next year I'll have a lot more idea of what to expect with the allotment, and I'll definitely have prepared a lot more ahead of time as well, so hopefully I'll be able to manage it a bit better. The harvest may have been a little meagre, but it has been a really lovely day. I am so glad I got to spend so much time on the plot today, and I got heaps done, which I'm really proud of. I'm looking forward to spending more time on the plot this weekend and seeing what else I can get up to. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next allotment vlog update. Until then, stay calm and carry on growing. Bye!